What lies beyond this life? What is on the other side? Is it pearly gates and puffy clouds, or a higher state of consciousness? Our story today was sent to us by a young lady who says that she caught a glimpse of the other side during a near-death experience in 2016. She says she died, came back, went back across before returning to her earthly body after a message from a loved one, and she decided to share her story with us. Before I tell you my story, I need to give you the backstory first. I was 6 years old when I met Todd. I was raised in a very abusive and neglectful family. Todd was 21 at the time. He lived next door to me in our shared duplex. Todd was my lifeline, my best friend in the whole world. When I needed comfort, he was there for me. When I needed someone to listen and let me know that I was loved, he was there for me. He fed me when I was hungry. This was in the 1990s, before anybody really had internet, and I called him on the phone so many times, and whenever I needed him, he was there. He was a huge part of my life and was the kindest, gentlest soul I have ever known. Fast forward about 9 years. Todd had moved away. It wasn't something he wanted to do, but was forced to do. We also moved around the same time, so I lost contact with him completely. I wondered, as a 15-year-old child, what had happened to my best friend. We had such a strong, soul-level connection, despite the age difference. No matter how crazy it may sound, we could actually hear one another's thoughts. If I was thirsty, I didn't need to tell him. He just knew it. And he got me a glass of water without me having to say anything. It's hard to explain, but we had such a strong telepathic connection. I wish I could explain it. I'm a logical person. I like having an explanation for things, but in this case, I'm at a bit of a loss. Fast forward again to 2016, when the story I want to tell takes place. I was 31 years old then, and I remember dying. I was in bed one night around 10:30, and I was awakened by a voice that spoke to me telepathically, and it gave me this very specific instruction. Go to the grocery store. I'm not one to listen to disembodied voices, and I do not encourage others to either, but it felt important somehow, and it resonated inside of my soul in a way I can't explain in words. So I listened. It just felt right. So I got up, got dressed, and I drove to the nearby 24-hour grocery store, thinking it was only because I needed some groceries. By the time I got to the market, it was after 11 p.m. I am not a late-night shopper by any stretch. I walked through the produce section towards the bakery. I put a few loaves of bread in the cart. I might as well take care of things I need while I'm here, right? Next to the bakery is a little refrigerated section, and I went to grab some hummus. It just felt like that was the right thing to do, even though I can't explain how or why I knew this, logically. I saw a man standing there, looking at the hummus. I doubled back, and for a few seconds, I felt confused. I became aware that I recognized this man somehow. I knew him. Again, I can't explain it. I didn't even have to see his face. I was looking at the back of his head, but still I recognized him immediately after all these years. Todd? Todd? I cried out. I was not recognizing anything physical. It was purely psychic. I could read his energy, and I just knew him. He had a lot of gray hair that I wouldn't recognize, but my own soul just knew who he was. He turned around instantly as soon as he heard my voice, and he made eye contact with me. Todd! I gasped, and I abandoned my cart and my purse, just ran towards him. He had no idea who I was. I ran to him, and I held on to him, and I began to cry. I had missed my best friend for so long. He didn't hug me back immediately. He still was unsure about who I was. I pulled back, and I tried to stop crying, but I'm a very emotional person. I couldn't help but cry. Todd, it's me. It's Aaron, your sweet girl." He always called me his sweet girl. He pulled back and made eye contact with me. "Oh my God. Aaron, it's you." Now he started to cry. I mean, he and I were both sobbing uncontrollably right there in front of the hummus. He cried, and when I say cried, I mean he literally cried as hard as I did. "My sweet girl, you're all grown up," he said as he kissed my face and looked at me intently. "It's me," I cried and made eye contact with him. "I missed you. Where have you been?" It took a few moments for him to compose himself enough to say, "Sweet girl, it was not up to me. I sent you so many letters, though. Did you get them?" "No, I never got any letters. I thought you were dead or something." Tears kept welling up, and I held on to him for dear life. I mean, here it was, my very best friend in the entire world. "No, I sent you so many letters, and I tried to find you. I would never leave you all alone in that situation you were in. But I just couldn't help it." He cried and held me in his arms. "I never thought you would," I told him. He had been in town visiting friends with his wife and 2 daughters. Even though it was late, he insisted I go back with him and meet his daughters and see his wife. His wife had known me before they moved away, and I was happy to see her as well. "Aaron, I don't believe for a second that this is a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. I never go grocery shopping at night. We were meant to meet again," Todd told me. I had to agree. I mean, it was a disembodied voice that got me moving to the grocery store at a time that I never go grocery shopping. So, yeah, there was a reason we were brought together. It wasn't just by chance. So we bonded a little bit, watching TV and eating way too much pizza, the 5 of us together. The next day, we said goodbye to each other, but we promised to stay in touch, and that we would get together soon as well. We both cried again, but I believed we would see each other soon. He promised to call. I kissed him goodbye, and he and his family drove home, which was a few states away. 2 weeks went by, and I hadn't heard from Todd at all. I knew something was wrong. Again, I'm very sensitive, and I could just feel it. I decided to call his home phone number late at night. I'm a bit of an insomniac, and I was awake anyway, so I dialed his number. I kept waiting for somebody to answer, but he didn't. But someone else did. "Hello?" I didn't recognize her voice. "Is Todd home?" I asked her. I apologized for the late hour that I was calling. "Who is this?" an older woman's voice asked me. "It's Aaron," I replied over the line. "Aaron?" she asked aloud. "I know who that is," I heard a woman's voice say in the background. I recognized it as Todd's wife, and she took the phone from the older woman. "Hello," she said over the phone. "Is Todd home? I know it's late, but I thought he would have called me by now." She began to cry, and there was a long pause before she could answer me. "Aaron, I'm so sorry. Todd died suddenly 2 days ago." And she broke off into more tears over the phone line. I was in shock. "What?" I cried. "I'm so sorry. I should have called you to let you know, but it's been so..." She just couldn't finish the sentence. I went into complete and total shock. "No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault," I told her, and then I hung up the phone. I couldn't actually handle the pain of reality in this moment. What? My best friend is dead and gone? Right after we got together for the first time in years? No, I thought to myself. I couldn't seem to handle this much pain. I went into shock and couldn't accept that my best friend in the world was dead. I dropped to my knees on the floor and I curled up into a fetal position right there in the bedroom. I rolled over on my left side and I just began to scream and cry hysterically. And then I heard my cell phone ring, and I answered it. It was Todd's wife again. "Aaron, Todd loved you very much, and he would not want you to blame yourself for this," she told me. I often blame myself for things that aren't my fault, like many people who are raised in abusive homes tend to do. I am so sorry, I cried over the phone line. Me too, honey, she told me. We both cried, and I hung up the phone. I was in shock. He couldn't be gone. Could he? I thought to myself. I immediately deleted Todd's phone number because I just couldn't bear to see it on my phone again. I went into shock for several minutes, and I rocked back and forth in pain on the floor. I told myself that it wasn't true, but I was just lying to myself. After several minutes, the pain of reality hit me like 1,000 bricks striking me in my chest. I was crushed. No, this isn't real. It's not true, I tried to tell myself. But I couldn't stop reality from creeping up on me. I was at once hit with so much emotional and spiritual pain that I couldn't catch my breath. He's gone. He can't be gone, can he? Come back, I cried to myself as I rocked back and forth on the floor of my small bedroom. He can't be gone, I kept saying over and over and over. We just found each other again. This is so wrong. Then I completely lost it. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I could not exist as a human being anymore. My best friend was gone. And why? For what? I felt so angry inside and so helpless. Why bring us together for that chance meeting in the grocery store and then take him away less than 2 weeks later? I tried to stand up, but I fell back to my knees and I screamed at the top of my lungs for what seemed like 20 minutes until I felt like I might die of a broken heart. And then it happened. At the age of 31 years old with a healthy heart, I literally died of a broken heart. I had heard stories of this happening, but I never believed it was possible until it happened to me. Well, it is possible. I remember dying because I did. I suppose, medically speaking, I died of a heart attack, and this is what it felt like. I felt a sharp stabbing pain shooting down the left side of my arm. At the same time, I felt a very sharp pain shooting through my heart and entire chest. It was a very heavy, crushing pain. I felt very sweaty, panicky, and out of breath. I felt like I was simultaneously having an asthma attack and I couldn't breathe. It was horrible. I was in so much pain, I didn't even try to breathe. I wished to die in this moment. I felt so much pain everywhere in this moment. I simply wanted to die so the pain would end. I was terrified and in so much pain. I could not understand why I should continue to live. If you have never loved another human being this much, maybe you don't understand. It feels like you'd rather die than exist without them. It's so awful. I decided that I'd rather just die than live without my best friend. It didn't matter, and I didn't seem to have any control over any of this. I can remember holding my left arm and crying out in agony. Cardiac arrest, as I found out, is agonizingly painful. In this moment, I felt like death was my only option, so I let my body go limp, and I let the pain overwhelm me. And I knew in my soul that I would die soon, within minutes. I held on to my left arm and I surrendered to the pain. I let go. The next thing I remember, I was standing outside of my body and being in shock once again. I was very much alive, standing outside of my dead body. It was very frightening, actually. I looked at my dead, lifeless body. My eyes were open and a bit glazed over. My body was completely lifeless. I wondered what was happening. Then I realized I was dead. I remember dying. I felt nothing but an overwhelming urge to stay dead. I don't want to be alive. I don't want to be here, I cried out. So I looked around and there were, 30 or so people in the room with me. They felt like loving angels, but they looked like just very tall human beings to me. They were very beautiful. I felt like I had known them before I was born, but had since forgotten. Did I know them before I was born? I felt like I did, but I can't explain how. I looked down at my human body again, and I just knew I didn't want to go back into that body. Why? Because as soon as I died, I felt my human soul enter back into what I can only describe as unconditional, endless love. I felt like I had lived before I was born, like I would live again, and that I had existed since, forever, for eternity before this moment. I made eye contact with a tall, male, human-like figure in the room. "I'm not going back in there," I told him. He looked and felt sad to me, and he was crying, just like I was. "We love you so much, but it is not your time to die yet. You have to go back. We are so sorry," he told me. Then I felt a feeling of acceleration in my stomach, and I felt nauseous, like I might throw up, but I didn't. I heard loud sounds that, kind of sounded like Pop Rocks candy, and felt tremendous vibrations. I blinked my eyes and found myself back inside of my physical body. "No! No!" I screamed, and I rejected it. I needed the unconditional love I had felt just moments ago to survive. I couldn't stay alive anymore. I've struggled with depression my whole life, and this was the worst moment of overwhelming pain that I've ever felt in my entire life. All of the heaviness returned to me with my body. I just wanted to feel the endless, unconditional, infinite love I had felt just moments ago when I was dead. I felt all of the pain just disappear moments ago. But now it had all returned again. So I cried out in agony, and then I felt terribly sharp and painful chest pains once again. Since I'd just been through this, I knew that I was dying from cardiac arrest yet again. "I don't care," I thought to myself, and I once again surrendered to the pain. I could not imagine surviving this much pain. Just moments before, when I was looking at my body from outside of myself, the heavy blanket of anguish and pain had been lifted off of my soul, and I wanted to go back there. "I miss you, Todd. I want to be with you," I found myself saying as I watched my body die once again. "I love you more, sweet girl. Please stay alive," Todd told me. It was his voice. I would recognize his voice and energy anywhere. He spoke to my soul. And I have to say, I resented it. "Easy for you to say. You just left me here," I cried, and I surrendered to the pain, and I died from cardiac arrest yet again. I was happy to. "No, sweet girl. I love you. I will love you forever. I have loved you forever. But it is not your time to go yet," Todd told me. Even though I could not see him, he spoke, and his words resonated inside my soul. I can remember startling back awake, alive, inside my body once again, and I felt angry and resented it. "I love you, sweet girl. I have loved you forever, and I will love you forever," I heard Todd tell me again. Again, I can't explain how I could hear him. I just could. And how could I actually argue with that? I could feel him crying, perhaps harder than I was. I can remember falling asleep that night and sleeping off and on for days. I cried and grieved for my best friend. I was finally able to get up and start moving again after about 3 days. I can remember hearing Todd tell me in words I could feel and hear inside my soul. "Tell our story. It matters." And I promised that someday I would. To this day, several years later, I still cry for him, but I also understand that we will be together someday, like he has promised me. I feel like we humans are born here on Earth for an important reason. I can't tell you what that reason is. I don't know. But I feel like we have existed before we were born, and that we will exist after we die. I share my story because I want other people to know that their lost loved ones still exist somewhere, and that they are okay. I share my story because I want other people to know that no matter how alone they might feel in life, they are not completely alone. I promise there are others who have loved you before you were born and love you now, and who will love you after you die. just as much as Todd loved me. I share my story because I want people to know that if they are suffering from the loss of a loved one, they still exist, and you will be reunited with them once again because love is eternal and it never dies. Your lost loved one is not lost at all, and they are okay, and they still love you. I believe we all existed before we were born in these human bodies, and we will exist for eternity after these human bodies die.